Good morning, guys. So today we will see that how to pass the parameters and distributed cache, map side join, couple of interesting more topics. So in the last class, if you remember, we have seen like how to debug our MapReduce job using Jane test cases. That's basically how using MR unit framework. How did we debug our MapReduce job during our which is during the part of the build, and also we have seen local runner wherein you can run your entire MapReduce job locally, wherein your entire data set input data is on your local file system, output also gets created in local file system, right? And that helps us in putting debugging. It helps us in debugging our MapReduce job. Okay, and now today we'll see that if I want to pass externally some few parameters to my MapReduce jobs, and how do we do that actually? For example, I'll take up a problem statement wherein I would like to count. I will take a very simple problem. So I would like to count. Just 1 minute. I would like to count only those. I would like to count the number of times the word Aaron has appeared. Only Aaron, right? So, for example, input data is a Shakespeare data for this problem statement. And what you need to do, you need to give me the output. The output should be how many times the word Aaron has appeared. Right. So this is what we need to do. Previously, I've done the word count problem, but that word count problem is like you have counted all the words. But now I'm going to specific words. Like I don't want to count all the words in my MapReduce job, but I want to count only this specific word, how many times it has appeared. Okay, so for that, what I will do, I will create new classes. Word count specific word. Let's say that's my package name. So I will change word count. I don't want because driver code is already present. So let us delete that and let's change the mapper class name, refactor, rename, and word count mapper or word count specific word mapper. Let us say specific. I say specific mapper. That basically says that we are this is just for counting. This MapReduce job is just for counting a specific word. Similarly, just let us rename, select your class, refactor, rename, and word count specific reducer. Okay, and let us also quickly create our XML file. Word count conf. I'll copy this word count conf, and I'll give the name as word count specific conf. So that's basically for our this current MapReduce job. What we need to do is, okay, we have to change the properties. So QA name, okay, this is a Q name. Okay, this is a local. In the last class we have changed it, right? So this is a local, but we can change it then. If you want to submit this job onto cluster, we can change the address of the name node as well as the address of your job tracker. So yarn resource manager local, this is also local. Then your job name, okay, this gonna be changed. Word count specific mapper, word count reducer, how many reducers you want to have. 5 reducers more than enough because the output is going to give only 1 entry, so it's okay to have 1. Why I'm saying it as a 1? Because if you see the MapReduce job, it should just emit only 1 count. That is if Aaron, so it should be Aaron 27. That's it. So there is no point in running 5 reducers. 1 reducer is sufficient. Everything remains the same. The output mapper output key class, mapper output value class, reducer output key class, reducer output value class, input format. You have an input directory, you have an output directory. Let us give the output directory name. Word count specific. I'll just put a SP as my, which stands for SP, which stands for specific. Save this file. Okay. Let's go to mapper. Now, our business logic is not to count all the words, but only a specific word. If I want to do that, then how do I do that? Right. So that's a very simple method here. What you do, here you're iterating over all the words. Right. So here you're iterating over all the words. Okay. And now when iterating, you can actually see whether the word is Aaron or not. But that's a problem statement. So one will try to solve like this. But we have a better way of solving. So just hang on for some time. Um, so what you can do here when you're iterating over the words, you can actually see whether the word is Aaron or not. And how will you do that? It's just if word dot equals Aaron, and that's it. Right? If word dot equals Aaron, then you will then only you will emit that. That's the only change which you'll have to do it. So for that, now if you want to test it quickly, and let us run it locally. Now Maven clean install. It will also run the test cases. Now if you see that here, now we have already written a couple of test cases, right, using a Maven framework. Okay, it didn't run. Okay, the other day we have some problem running the unit test cases. Maybe the Surefire plugin we have to, okay, it's there for test default test at what count. Okay, yeah, the other day I think I've told you that for some reason it was not running. Okay, let's fix it. I will fix it later. Now the job we have already we have all we now we want what we want to do. We want to run this job and on our Shakespeare data, and we'll see how many times the word Aaron has appeared. Correct, and we are going to run it locally. So so we have already given in our configuration file. If you see that the address of your name node and the resource manager is local. So if you just verify, this is your address of your name node, which is pointing to local, and this is your framework name is also local, and the resource manager name is also local. Which means that you would not like to run or you would not like to run on the cluster, but it is on your local file system, and that's where if you see your input data is also pointing to your local file system. User K Sharma documents Shakespeare. Okay, now where's our target folder? This is our target folder. And how can I run it? So ls target. So that's where your jars are here. I can use shaded jar. Okay, Hadoop. Just give me a moment, guys. Okay. Coming back. So we wanted to run our MapReduce job. So Hadoop jar. Okay. Sorry. So Hadoop is command not found, which means basically on my local file system, I have not installed Hadoop. That's fine. What we can do here is we can run it locally from the Eclipse. So To run that, we will say what count driver, we will say run configurations, and here I can give the arguments. Now arguments, here you just need to give your XML file name, and in this case it is in my case it would be specific. What count specific, I hope the spelling is right. What count specific conf.xml, apply, run. Okay, it has completed. And what is the output? So we have anything we have missed. Okay, we have, that's fine, that output directory already exists, but what I am interested right now, not the debugging. Oh, I have ran it as debugging. So let me change the output directory or delete my output directory. I'll delete this. D run as Java app. Okay, D. Let me just what count specific conf.xml. I believe I have. Let me just take up the correct name. So rename, cancel what count driver, run configuration conf. What count specific conf.xml. And let us also actually quickly see local what count specific mapper. Oh, what count reducer. It is does the what count reducer. We have to change it to what count specific reducer. Okay, MapReduce Job reduces. It is 1. And this comment is no more actually valid in our MapReduce framework 2 because it runs actually more than one reducer also, which we have seen. So I will remove this comment as well. But in Hadoop 1, if even if you specify in local run more than one reducer, it was going to run only one reducer. So right now it is wrong because I have just changed one important thing, that is a reducer. But still, if it's the same reducer, it should it's not in the same. What do I say? It's the package was different, right? So we have to give the correct package and everything. So here, what I'm gonna do, what count specific mapper, right click, copy qualifying name. I have to give the job because everything is a different package. So I'll give what count specific mapper, what count specific reducer, and let me also give the different output name as p output 2. Yeah. So mapper class name, reducer class name, everything remains the same now. And let us now run it once again. Okay, completed. You can see that here it gets completed. 2. Interesting, it does not get any output. Does this mean it has even ran it? Okay. I think you have observed that it was not coming the entire any logs and everything, and it has and it's stopping abruptly. So what I have done, so what let's do, so we will create a log4j properties to get the console outputs, and this is what you can put it. It's a standard contents here. The only thing what I have done here is root category is info, and it will going to display on the console. Info, debug, trace, you can put it in if you want more granular level logging. And here you are putting that all those com.training, that means all the loggers which you have defined the com.training packages, whatever it's com.training, it will be info statements will be printed. Now let us try to run it now. What count driver, and what is the output first? Okay, it says that the output its directory already exists. What I'm going to do, let me just quickly delete this. rm minus rf. Okay, now if you let me run, and let's see that what is going wrong, why it is not giving us the output. Okay, I saw one of the so we see the class cast exception. It says that com.training.whatCount.specific.word.word.count specific mapper cannot be cast to reducer. Okay, it should not do it. But then where we have specified that it should be used as my reducer. So the only place where we have, so let us see what count specific reducer. Okay, the only place is the XML file where we specify each and everything. What count specific XML. Okay, what count, I will say what count specific reducer. This is the class. Okay, MapReduce.Job.Reduce.Class. Now let us again run it, but before that let us delete the output and run it, and let's see the logs. Okay, now we have seen the output. So now if you see that part -r-0, Aaron has appeared 26 times. Correct. Not a problem. Good. You have achieved whatever you have achieved what you wanted to achieve. That how many times the word Aaron has appeared. Now the problem statement has changed. Now they say that how many times the abate has achieved. Or sorry, I'm very sorry. How many times the word abate has appeared. So what you do if you want to do this, you will again go to your code, right? Because the way we have written the code is that we have hard coded the value of Aaron in our mapper class. Now, if I want to do that, if I want to do it for abate, I will say ABAT. I will hard code it here in my code. And every time if anyone asks you that give me the count of this specific word, give me the count of this specific word and all, you have to go to your code, change it, and then run it, and then get the output, right? So that's going to be a very cumbersome process. The best way would be that if someone passes the word to you, right, as a parameter, that would be the best. So now that's an interesting thing, that how do we pass the parameters to a MapReduce job? How to pass parameters to MapReduce job? Now before that, you might be thinking that why can't I pass the MapReduce job like command line arguments? Because we have a command line argument, right? So in this public static void main, if you see the driver code, these are the command line arguments. Why can't I pass the like a command line arguments and then give it to my mapper using some set method or whatever it is? But then remember that So you cannot pass the command line arguments, or you cannot pass the parameters as command line arguments and send it to a mapper, because driver code runs on your client machine. Remember, driver code, that's your public static with the class which has the public static void main method. That driver code runs on client machine locally. Okay, and the mapper and reducer class runs on cluster. So they will not accept the command line argument. So what you have to do is to pass the parameters. Okay, so which means that you have to specify the parameters in your configuration object. You need to specify the parameters, external parameters, via the configuration object. So the external so what we need to do, we need to somehow tell the configuration object, but this is my parameter, and you have to set it and make it available. Okay, so how to do that? So what we need to do is, let me just first change the code, since I've told you that it has to be specified when you're passing an external parameters to your MapReduce job. It has to be set in the configuration object, right? You cannot pass the command line parameter because as I've explained you, that driver code runs on the client machine, on the machine itself, but the mapper and reducer class runs on the cluster, on the task, on a separate JVM. So you will not be able to just say mapper class dot set my parameter. No, you have to pass it. You have to pass the parameters, right? And the passing the parameters to your MapReduce job is through configuration object. So what you need to do here, you can say context dot get configuration dot get, and now you provide the property that which you are going to pass. So configuration, when you are going to pass the parameters, it has to be key value pair. Parameters, you need to pass it as key value pair, where key would be a name, or we say it's a property name, you can say, or property or a parameter name, and the value would be the actual value, the property value, property or parameter value, right? So it has a property name, so we'll always access the value via the property name. So let us say the property name which I'm going to pass is a word, and I'll say string client word. So I got the property I got my parameter. I got my parameter, and this is the value. The client word will be the value, whatever the client has passed. And now I'm gonna check. Now I don't want to hardcode it. I'm gonna check it here. So client word. Now since I've changed, now let us quickly test it. Now since I've changed my code, so I'm gonna quickly run it. I'll quickly build it, or I'll quickly run it from here. What count driver? Yeah. Now what count? So once it has successfully run it, so we will see what count. Vi part okay, we have not passed any parameters. That's why the output is nothing, null. We need to pass the parameters. Very sorry, I have not shown you that. Okay, what we'll do here, we'll go to our run configuration. Okay, instead of that, I can go to my XML file and I can give my custom property. As I've told you, the property consists of a name and the value. So the name of the property, if you see the code, in the property I am accessing the property by name word, right? So the property name is word, and the value this time I want to specify is Aaron. and now let's run it. So Aaron has 26. So that's what how you. So you have seen that you have specify your property like this. Also, there is a way if you don't want to specify the property here. There is a way you can specify the property via the configuration. So what you need to do in that case? Let me first delete this. Let me first delete the. Okay, so if you don't want to specify the property in XML file, the other way would be you go to your driver code, right click, run configuration, and arguments you can specify as -d capital word equal to arrow. I'm not sure whether it should work ideally, or else it has to be specified before the minus conf. Apply, run. Let us see that if it gives us the output, it's good. So file already exists exception. Yeah, so that's the way. So you can say -d, the property name, which you are exactly, the property name should be exactly same, which you have specified in the code. So here word, so it should be capital, it's all in caps, so the property name should be word. So that's one thing, right? But there's a problem here. If you see that just now you have specified and it's working, everything is working fine, but there's a problem. The problem here is this piece of code, the one which I'm highlighting right now. This piece of a code is a static code, right? This code is a static code. Why I'm saying a static code? Because the value is not going to change. The value is never going to change, right? But the mapper method, but this mapper method is called for every record. It's called for every record, and that's where, and it's doing nothing. Fine, right? I mean to say it has to be done only once. If you see this piece of code should be executed only once. That's it. This should, right? It should not be executed more than once because it's the value is not going to change it. So, but this map method is going to be executed multiple times because as many number of records you have in your in block size on your data. Now, for that, if you remember, we used to override the method. This is the overridden method. So, in the mapper in your base class, there is a method which is known as a setup method, which will be executed only once per map task. So, if you go to source, um, override implement methods, and you have setup here, you have a cleanup method also, right? So you can now set up and you can now actually implement this. Now this cleanup method will be called after your map task is over only once. So the cleanup method will be called once your map task is over. Will be called only once, right? Once will be called only once when your task is over. at the end of the task, after the completion of task, you can say. Now this setup method, again called once before the starting of the task, which means that I can use this method for some kind of initialization. Which has to be done only once. And here you can do a cleanup. You can do cleanup, right? So just a hypothetical use case, I would say that if you wanted to have a database connection, then in the setup method you will have the data. You will create the database connection, and you will use the database connection your map method for the entire task. And once your task is over, you can use the cleanup method to close your database connection. Now let us do this. That now this client word which we have placed in a map method, which is executing every time, ideally should be executed only once. So now we'll take up this line and put it in our setup method. And now this client word will be a member variable. So I will say private string client word. Now that's it. That's the only change which we're gonna do it now. Now, what will happen? This setup method, this client word, will be now only initialized once per map task, and you are using that. That's a way how you can do it. Right? This is actually a motivation of having the setup and the cleanup method. A setup method is the one wherein you can do those activities which has to be done only once for that map task. Like you wanted to read a file from the HDFS and want to create some properties. In the next topic, we will see that we will have a two data sets, wherein in one of the data sets I wanted to access some values which is specified in another data set, and that data set I will wanted to map it up. Okay, so we will see that in the next class. Yeah. So the next class would be more on the distributed cache and the map side join. Thank you.